They have successfully tap danced all over your will. They have bent and broken you so much that you are just drained and you are numb. You are paralyzed emotionally. You don't know what to feel. You don't know how to feel. And then they make you feel like it's your fault. And then you end up trying to fix it. And then you start prioritizing them and loving them over yourself. That's because they're successfully dominating and manipulating you. They got you on a string like a little puppet, right? Most people who end up being just like their parents are the people who failed to forgive their parents. Why would you dominate and control over somebody who is worthy, who is, you know, of high esteem? You have to first make them feel like they are not that smart, they're not that handsome, they're not that cute. You have to belittle them a little so that you can put your foot on them. Welcome back to those of you who come back. It's your girl with another video. On this channel, I produce transformative, faith-based content that seeks to push, inspire, and motivate you in your walk with Christ Jesus. On this channel, it's all about transformation. It's all about growth. It's all about Jesus, because Jesus is really that guy. All right, so we have been going through the topic of silent witchcraft. I hope that it has been a blessing to you guys. I also hope that you guys have been watching the shorts that I've been putting out and have been benefiting from them. I pray that you have been enlightened and that these videos have been helping you to think about your life, think about yourself, think about characteristics, and to also go into prayer. So now, today's video is going to be about what are the signs that you might be under a spell, okay? So let me give you a quick review. If you didn't watch last week's video, make sure you pause and you go back. Last week's video, we talked about the different signs of silent witchcraft, right? And so just to recap and to refresh your memory, essentially what silent witchcraft is, it is when someone is operating in the realm of witchcraft without necessarily knowing what they're doing, so they could be ignorant, and it is something that is almost always subconscious. This is something that they say, oh, that's just how I am. It's just part of their character, but they don't see or understand that this is witchcraft. Now, this is such a big problem because there are many people in the church, many people in the body of Christ that are operating in this here silent witchcraft, right? And so the vehicle of silent witchcraft is manipulation and control. So the difference between someone that is overtly a witch and someone that is covertly a silent witch or operating in silent witchcraft is that overt witchcraft is out there, it's in the open, it's in your face, it's the spells, it's the crystals, it's the astrology, it's the candles, it's whatever, right? That's how they're doing their stuff. However, when we're talking about silent witchcraft, we're talking about a more covert form which goes through manipulation and control. This is what makes it so popular, because a lot of people are not aware that this is a form of witchcraft. So the Bible says that rebellion is as witchcraft, and so essentially people who operate in this, they seek to gain control, they seek to be the God of their life, and they seek to impose their will upon other people's wills. In the videos past, we explained why that was such a problem. If God is not imposing his will on others, who are we to do so? That is what Satan does. That is not what the children of God do. So now, another thing to know about the silent witch is that oftentimes these characteristics that we have talked about in our past videos, they're not triggered until, well, they're not seen until they're triggered. So it's kind of latent. It's like behind the scenes until you get close enough to the person, or until the person is triggered or comfortable enough with you so the mask could come off. Now, this could sound like narcissism, and it could also sound like someone who's possessed with the Jezebel spirit. However, you know, we call it silent witchcraft because people who are narcissists and who are possessed with the Jezebel spirit they're not the only people who operate in this. This has too many people in the church operate under manipulation and control, and it's not good. Anyway, so that was our little recap. Now let's get into the video. Now this video is going to be focused on what are the signs that you're under a spell, because like we said, the person who operates under silent witchcraft, they're not doing potions, they're manipulating and they're controlling you, and that is the way that they cast their spell. They are pushing like this negative demonic energy that they don't even know that they're pushing onto you, so that your will can bend to what they want. In the previous videos, we talked about how they did it. Today, we're going to talk about what are the signs that they're doing it, right? So here are some signs that may follow somebody that is under the spell of a manipulator or a silent witch, or somebody who operates in silent witchcraft. First one, you're numb and you're drained. Okay, you don't want to speak. You don't want to pray. You don't want to do anything. One of the things that Jezebel does when it comes after prophets, for example, when she came after Elijah didn't want to do nothing. He ran and hid. Now, that spirit will take prayer from your mouth. When someone is operating in silent witchcraft and they're overpowering and they're sending their signals and they're overbearing over your life, you might not want to pray. You might not want to speak. You might not want to do anything because you're drained, you're numb. They have successfully danced all over your will. They have bent and broken you so much that you are just drained and you are numb. You are paralyzed emotionally. You don't know what to feel. You don't know how to feel. You are, spiritually and mentally just like numb. Like, I don't know, right? You know why that is because God never created us. We are image bearers of Christ. We are kings and priests on the earth. He didn't create us for our wills to be subdued like that. He didn't create us for that. He didn't subdue our will, and he didn't create us so that other people can subdue our will by way of manipulation and control. And so when you're under this, when these spells or this energy is being casted towards you, these actions are being done towards you, it is going against the very fabric of your being, the reason why you were created. You were created to dominate and rule and to be a reflection of Christ, not to be the subject of somebody who's dominating and manipulating and controlling you. That's not why you were created. And so you're going to feel out of place. You're going to feel numb. You're going to feel drained. Here's the second one. You're gonna feel sad, right? Depression, wanting to take yourself out of this world. You understand what I'm saying? Questioning your reason for existence, questioning your life. You understand? And when we talk about the Jezebel spirit, that's something that it often does against the prophets that it goes after, or the people that it goes after. It causes this depression and this sadness, right? Wanting to take yourself out of this world, right? And so you might be sad, you might be walking around with a depressive cloud. What's another one? The third sign, brain fog, confusion. When someone is constantly gaslighting you, you're gonna be confused. Brain fog is a natural repercussion, I believe, of witchcraft in general, right? You don't know, you're just kind of confused. There's lack of clarity. When you are moving with the Spirit of God, it's clear, it's sharp, it's precise. When there's a witch involved, when there is demonic warfare involved, that's when you get cloudy. That's when you get the brain fog. So brain fog, questioning your worth, second guessing your value, second guessing your sanity, right? That's what happens. You get brain fog, you get this confusion to you. What's next? Here's a classic one, fear. If you're living in constant fear, this could be a clear sign that someone around you is operating in this witchcraft, or that you are under a spell, right? Or somebody's casting a spell. They're manipulating and controlling you. If you're operating under fear, you're walking on eggshells. You don't know what to do. You don't know what you're gonna say or do that's gonna tick them off. You're trying your best to be on good terms because you don't want that emotional manipulation to hit you. You don't want the fits of rage and the tantrums because it's physically exhausting, right? And so you're walking on eggshells. You don't know what to say or when to say it. You might try and avoid the person. If you live with the person, you don't want to be in the house with the person. You want to avoid them as much as you can because you want to avoid the tactics. You want to avoid that draining energy or that draining spirit that is with them, and it projects itself on you. If you don't know, another definition for the word energy is actually spirit, by the way, but maybe we could do that. We could look into that in another video, right? But that draining energy, you want to be away from it. You want to be like, okay, let me just avoid this person because I don't want no trouble. I don't want no beef, right? So it's the fear of the person being around, like, okay, let me go hide, right? You don't know what direction any conversation is going to go in, and you're too afraid to enforce boundaries because you don't know how the person is going to react. The person might scream at you, yell at you, kick you, scratch you, tell you think you all that stuff, belittle you, tell you think you all high up in the sky, blah blah blah, just for trying to to enforce boundaries. So you might be afraid to say no to the person. You might be afraid to say I can't do this, because the person is going to hold it against you, even if they don't like blow up, but you already know that it's going in their arsenal, because that's what they do. They move in manipulation and control. So that creates fear and intimidation around that person. If you're someone that's constantly intimidated by someone, or somebody that's constantly in fear, that is because the person is casting their spell without even knowing it. That dominance, that power and control is being casted over you. That's why that's happening. So the next sign that you might be under a spell is anxiety. Anxiety, yes. Feeling anxious, sometimes it'll come as stomach aches in anticipation of the person's reaction. So you're anxious, you don't know how the conversation is gonna go, you're worrying about it all day, you're worrying about it all week, you don't know how your next meeting with that person will be. You're anxious, you're living life on edge. You're living life on edge. You don't know what to expect, okay? You fear what will happen if you don't comply to what the person wants. So you're constantly walking with this cloud of anxiety. You are doing, it might also look like rushing throughout your days, rushing throughout life, doing things quickly, trying to like anxiously avoid drama. Like, okay, let me get this done before she says something. I don't want her to say nothing, so let me get this done. Let me the anxiety, the fear. It couples in with fear as well. This just chest racing all the time as it pertains to the things that this person wants you to do, or the things that this person has asked you to do, or just being around the person in general, right? And sometimes it could be so bad that you end up being like that across the board, even with people who aren't doing anything to you, because you've been trained by that type of behavior, right? Low self-esteem and low sense of self-worth, because what oftentimes happens when people are manipulating and trying to control you, they belittle you, right? They're trying to assert their dominance and their control over your life. Why would you dominate and control over somebody who is worthy, who is, you know, of high esteem? You have to first make them feel like they are not that smart, they're not that handsome, they're not that cute. You have to belittle them a little so that you can put your foot on them. And so essentially what happens is people will end up feeling low self-esteem. They will end up feeling low sense of self-worth. If your self-worth and self-esteem is at the ground because of the treatment that you've been getting from this person, or they'll be like, oh, you deserve to be treated this way, you deserve for me to, you know, be manipulative and controlling towards you, you deserve to be gaslighted. They'll try and make you seem that way. They'll try and belittle you, make you feel like, oh, the things that you're doing is the reason why, like you're of little value. You know what I'm saying? Or sometimes you'll feel like if only you were different, then things would be different, right? So now you're questioning yourself. You're thinking that there's something wrong with you versus there being something wrong with the relationship dynamic, right? And so you end up valuing and loving the other person above yourself, right? This is a sign that they are successfully manipulating and controlling you, right? First they sit here, they lower your self-esteem, then they make you feel like it's your fault, and then you end up trying to fix it, and then you start prioritizing them and loving them over yourself. That's because they're successfully dominating and manipulating you. They got you on a string like a little puppet, right? So that's a sign that you're under a spell. And here's another one that's very, very popular with codependent people, is when you think that if you just hold on, it's going to change, and the abuse is worth it and you can fix them, right? The abuse is, I'm going to be the one to fix this person. First of all, you're not God, okay? God is going to be the one who fixes this person. Something I heard, I used to hear this oftentimes. People used to say that, you know, they could love someone to healing. Now, there's a way that God's love through you can help and heal somebody. You understand? But to think that your love is somehow going to bring the fragmented, wounded pieces of this person's soul back together, it's kind of absurd. You know what I'm saying? You're not God, okay? So that's another thing. People they have such low sense of self-worth and self-esteem that they're willing to get beat up. They're willing to go through this manipulation and control dynamic because they think that they can fix the person if they love them enough, or essentially you just don't value yourself enough. Okay, so that's a sign that you might be under the spell of somebody who is operating in silent witchcraft. What's another one? Unforgiveness and bitterness towards the spellcaster. Okay, basically this happens when you fail to differentiate between the person that is in bondage and the spirit that has them in bondage. In our past videos, we talked about one of the principal spirits that governs this type of behavior is a Jezebel spirit, right? So oftentimes, because we've been so hurt and we've accepted the abuse for so long, it becomes hard for us to disconnect the abuse from the abuser. It becomes hard for you to understand that you were dealing with a demonic spirit and versus a person. Now, of course, the person has responsibility because the person allowed themselves to become a vessel. The person opened enough doors to the point where they can become a vessel, right? Or the person was in enough agreement with this silent witchcraft to the point where it just came out of control. You understand what I'm saying? But here's the thing. Oftentimes, here's the danger. What happens is the people who have been under this type of relationship dynamic, this manipulation and control, what happens is they begin to harbor resentment and bitterness towards the person, and that in itself is a trap and a snare for you, because if you're resentful and bitter, you are basically blocked. It's like my pastor told me this. He said people who harbor unforgiveness, it's like they put a chain to their foot and they're in the ocean and they put a chain to their foot. What? No. That was the movie Acrimony. My pastor did not tell me that. My pastor told me harboring unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's what he told me, right? And so this is it's killing you internally, right? But then because you've allowed yourself to be a doormat, you've allowed yourself to be less than who it is that God called you to be, now you're sick and you're harboring unforgiveness, right? So unforgiveness and bitterness towards the spellcaster is one of the signs that you have been under, that type of situation. Here's another sign. Becoming what you hate, my Lord. Failing to forgive somebody will have you behaving just like them. You ever see that? I learned this from a different pastor. He said most people who end up being just like their parents are the people who fail to forgive their parents, because they harbored their parents in their hearts. They ended up being just like their parents, doing the same exact things that their parents used to do. Oh, I can't stand my dad because my dad used to beat my mom. You never forgave your dad, now you beating your wife. You understand what I'm saying? This is a sign that you've been under manipulation and control, is when you become manipulative and controlling. You understand what I'm saying? So once you get out of that relationship and other relationships, or it could be like in a leadership type of position, you see yourself manipulating and controlling, doing the same things that were done to you. That's a sign that you were under that type of silent witchcraft. And it's silent witchcraft because, remember, I tell you, it's not overt, it's not loud, it's like low key. We don't see, or we don't understand or realize that this is bad behavior, that this is witchcraft. You understand what I'm saying? So here's the thing. A lot of times people be like, oh, I will never let anybody treat me like that ever again. And so what happens? They become just like the spellcaster. That trauma that the spellcaster had to make you go through what you went through, because you are now holding unforgiveness, that trauma now has the opportunity to do that to you. So now the enemy comes and start whispering to you. And this happened to me too when I was younger. Something happened. I talked about it in one of my testimony videos. So they were bullying me, and I'm like, you know what, I ain't never been bullied again. And then literally that was the moment I really believed, like a spirit of anger just entered me, and then it just kind of took over me because of the fact that I was just so hurt, and I did not forgive the people that were bullying me. And so what did I do? I ended up becoming like a bully in my character. You understand what I'm saying? So when you fail to forgive, you end up being just like the person that did you wrong. And here's another thing. When you become angry with a person for something, what ends up happening is you open yourself up for a transfer of spirits from that particular person. When you lose your cool or you become angry, you open yourself up, and the spirit that's on the person can now transfer into you. You understand? And so that's one thing we had to be careful with: the resentment, the unforgiveness, the bitterness, and the anger. Okay? Now, the person might have been abusive. The person might have manipulated and controlled you all their life. But look, let it go. Go to the Lord Jesus, roll at the altar, pray that he will help you to forgive and let go of that person and release that person, so that you don't end up becoming just like that person. Because when I look back on my life, there's a lot of people I did not forgive, and I just ended up being just like them, or if not worse, right? Without even knowing. And that's basically, that's the deal. So, solutions, real quick. You could leave, but I wouldn't tell anybody to leave any situation. I don't feel like I am qualified to be in that position to tell anybody to leave any type of relationship. I would say prayerfully ask God what to do with that relationship. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm not of the school of thought that you have to stay. Like some people that, you married, you're this, you're that. I'm just like, okay, well, God didn't call us to stay in abusive situations. But at the end of the day, respectfully, I refrain from telling people what they should do, because I do not believe I'm qualified at all to do that. And God forbid I tell somebody to do something and then it ends up being a destiny destroyer for them. Lord, let that blood not be on my hands, right? So you can possibly leave if the Lord releases you, but definitely a lot of prayer, asking God what to do. And that leads me to my next solution: pray, fast consistently for the person, so that you won't end up hating them, and assess yourself to make sure you don't have the characteristics that you hate, right? Number 3, keep your peace. Keeping peace is true strength. Do your best to keep your peace. It's easier said than done, but through the Spirit of God we receive power. You shall receive power when the Spirit comes onto you, remember? So don't give them the reaction that they're looking for, and don't bend to their will. Stop doing that. Like, stop waving a white flag, like just giving in. Like, no, when you know somebody trying to manipulate you, don't just let them manipulate you thinking you Christian. Stop. Stop letting people manipulate you. Okay? And here's the last thing. Don't be so quick to label people. There's a term in psychology, I don't remember what it is, but there's a term. It is a form of bias. Oh God, if somebody knows the bias, put it in the comment section. It's a form of bias in which, because you learned about a condition, you now start labeling every single person as that. You start labeling everyone as a narcissist, everyone is a Jezebel, everyone is a silent witch. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to do that, because at the end of the day, you have to understand we wrestle not against flesh and blood. These are demonic things. These are demonic spirits that inhabit in people and cast their influence over people. So be careful to not label anybody. You understand? So that brings us to the end of the series. Okay, I pray that this was nothing but a blessing to you guys. I pray that this was nothing but a blessing to you guys. And we're gonna keep it pushing. Keep me in prayer. I pray for you guys. I pray that God will cover you guys and keep you guys. And until next time, I'm gonna see y'all next time.